Hello, nerds, and welcome back to Second Cup. It's your host, Tim Heller. My guest for the show today is my close friend, Marco Cammarota, or better known to some of you, or almost 200,000 of you on YouTube, as Marcomeatball. Marco is a pro opera singer turned voice actor turned YouTuber who specializes in breaking down video game music, both for the first time with reaction content, as well as exploring some of the deeper emotions embedded in songs he knows and loves. His mission is to educate audiences on how to feel the music they love in a different way, moving past complex musical terminology and jargon into emotions everyone can relate to. Now it's time to top off your beverage, get comfy, and enjoy this episode of Second Cup with my good friend, Marco Cammarota, or Marcomeatball. Marco D. Meatball.
That's my actual last name.
Yeah, D. Meatball.
D. Meatball.
Yeah, we're just missing the apostrophe in your handle.
What does D even mean? What is D?
Nobody will ever know, nor should they.
Some sort of other food.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you are a very busy man, and a man much fancier than I. But so I thank you for spending the time to hang out this morning and chat a little bit about your life.
Of course. Any chance to talk to my buddy Tim, I'll take.
It's a me.
It's
so,
a me.
Marco, for those listeners that may not know you, can you just give us like a quick rundown of who you are, where you're at, and what you do?
Yeah, my name's Marco Meatball. That's not my actual last name, but
I didn't know if you wanted me to not give your last name.
No, it's fine.
But it's everywhere online, so I guess that's fine.
My stage name is Marco Domenico, which is my middle name.
What a man.
I know. I sent an email to my agents, and they were like, "Who's Marco Domenico?" I was like, "Just don't worry about it." So I am a person. I
hate you so much.
So right now I accidentally became a YouTuber about a year ago. I was an opera singer for a decade. I am, sorry, I hate this question because it's like, who am I?
I know. So, okay. So let's rephrase this. Let's start this out. I literally have written down, I've known you through like 3 major chapters of your life, it feels like.
Yeah.
And so, okay. So, okay. And okay. So Marco, you were an opera singer for a long time, traveled internationally.
Yeah.
Hashtag booked and blessed all the time.
Yeah.
Decided to pivot into VO, and then had an accidental pivot into the world of YouTube that has but it's combined every aspect of your life into one incredible channel. So let's start with the YouTube channel, because I'm sure that people who are listening to this who have never joined us before on the show are listening because of your channel. So can you talk a little bit about how you started that? How long did it take you to start it? Like, what was the point from ideation to first video?
Well, so I had wanted to, for a long time, I felt really isolated in my love for video game music, because obviously I had that career for a decade. I trained and studied and performed as an opera singer. And I always felt a little odd, because I would come home from these rehearsals, or I'd be like wearing a tuxedo, and then I'd come home and I would immediately hop on the PlayStation or whatever and play. And so I was always at odds with myself, because I was like, I really love video game music, and like Final Fantasy music was the reason why I got started in classical music. I really fell in love with video game music when I was a child. And that love, literally the first thing I got when we came to the United States, because we lived in Italy for several years when I was a child, was the Super Nintendo. My grandparents handed it to me, and I was like, what is this? It was like one of those, like, in Pulp Fiction, when he opens up the briefcase and it's gold and you have no idea what's in it. It was like, oh. And all my family came over, because there was like a welcome back to my mom and dad and I. And I'll never forget sitting there playing Super Nintendo, Super Mario Bros. With my cousins. And I didn't speak English at that point, because I'd just come back. So I remember like distinctly, I have these images of that night. and not being able to communicate. And everyone was talking in the other room, and I was like communicating with like verbals and like nonverbals and pointing at things. And it was Super Mario Bros. On that old 1980s TV that like lingers in my brain as like a formative moment for me. And so I've always loved video game music, and I've always been at odds with myself because, in opera, you dress up very fancy, you pretend you have a lot of money, that you're ritzy and wealthy, and you have to hobnob with people. And it always felt disingenuous. And so I would come home and play video games, and it was my way to relax. And so I've always loved video game music. And it wasn't until, like, I have very close friends that just are not gamers. And so I would talk about, oh my God, the soundtrack's awesome, or like, oh, this game is amazing. And I didn't have anybody to really bounce back and forth with. And so for about a year, I really debated, like, oh, I should start a channel. Oh, but like, what if I get in trouble? Like, what if, like, can I even upload songs? Or like, this is a lot of work. Like, what do I do? And eventually, when my dad passed last year, I sort of needed, I don't even know why I started, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just try this because like I've got nothing to lose. And like, let's see it. Let's see. So I uploaded my first video February 11th of 2022. And then I was like, okay, cool, I'll make like 3 more because I'm feeling kind of some sort of way, and it gives me like a creative outlet, and I'm using my iPhone, and I'm like positioning and stuff. And then nothing happened. Like I got like some views, like I got like 20 views or something, and I was like, okay, well, I think I'll probably stop because, I mean, it's not that it's not fun, because it is fun, but like there's also the like trade-off where you want to interact with people about it, and no one was, it wasn't doing anything. And I was like, okay, well, this is a lot of work for nothing. Fast forward, we go to pick up my dog. She was like 9 weeks the week after. And as we're driving down to Maryland, I'm getting like notifications, and I'm like, what? I must have like liked something on someone's YouTube channel or made a comment, and now like people are liking it or commenting on it. So I go and I'm like, oh, what? People are liking that Kindness Salvation video? I was like, this is weird. And at first I was like, oh my God, 100 people liked this. And then I was like, oh my God, 1,000 people liked this. And then literally this video went like this. It was like this, and then it goes shook, and it went viral. And well, viral. It had, by the end of it, I think all told, I think it's got like 100,000 views now. And that was the beginning. And then I was like, okay, what do I do? Shit, what do I do? And so I just started making bingeable content. And because the idea is that YouTube wants people to stay on YouTube. And so they reward people watching your videos. So I just went to town, just nonstop, boom, 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 every single day, multiple video uploads a day. I wanted to have at least 6 to 10 videos up there so that people could be like, oh, this is really great. There's like a diversity of stuff that isn't just one thing. And then people were like, do Elden Ring, because Elden Ring's really popular. That surged. And then I was like, okay, what else do I do? They're like, do Fire Emblem. That surged. And then, so that like, there was like a period of about 2 months where everything was like just popping off, like every single one. And so then I was like, okay, let me just do all the greatest hits. That way, like, not only because I feel like I have something to say because I know a lot of these tunes, but also because like some of them I didn't know. And so it like, this opera singer reacts thing really picked up a lot of steam. It's been a year. So I started a year ago with 23 subscribers, and we just crossed 182,000.
Yeah, you're at 182,534 videos, and something like, I wrote all this down because it's stupid. It's insane.
Yeah.
At 25,148,348 views as of maybe 10 minutes ago. So that's probably, let's see what it's updated to. Like, Marco, it's insane. It is so cool. And I feel like it's been such a privilege for me to just witness from the outside. Somebody who has had a successful career in the arts, pivoted for mental and physical health reasons to go seek joy somewhere else, has gone through all of these incredible hurdles and started something just because you love it. And you're genuinely, like, you have a genuine passion for video game music. And as niche as that sounds, or niche, or however the fuck you say it, you've also created this incredible space for people to come and share in that joy and share in that passion of this incredible genre of music.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, and I think that that's the part that I'm most happy about, is that I feel like no matter what game I cover, this is really interesting because, now that I'm in the thick of it and I'm in the forest, like, I sometimes can't see the forest from the trees because I see the trees because of my work every day. But it's really interesting how, like, even a video that will perform poorly, like I've applied for some like partnerships and stuff, and they're like, well, you're not getting 100,000 views monthly, so like we can't really justify like the expense of, like, ad companies aren't going to be interested in less than that. And the thing that I always try to remind myself is that that's not really ever what the, like, yes, it is like more or less my full-time income plus voiceover. Um, but like, you know, I I never viewed the channel as much as I want to make like $100,000 a month, which is, it's not, that's like a nice dream, and maybe that will someday become a reality. But what's most important is the idea that like every single track, even if it performs poorly, is something that someone values.
Mm-hmm.
I posted a video the other day that the click-through rate was like 1.9%, which is quite low, but
Mm-hmm.
it still got 2,000 views, and people still leave comments valuing and appreciating and sharing their experiences with that game. So it's like,
Yeah.
over the year, I've gotten comments like, "Oh, you should only focus on this because you've become a this channel," or "Oh, you should." And I'm like, first of all, that's utter nonsense, because every game has a meaning for somebody, and I'm not going to make videos just because they'll boost my subscriber count, because subscriber count is a vanity number anyway. While it feels really good to have 1,800 or 182K, it doesn't mean that you know what I mean? So like if someone's
Yeah.
getting something out of experiencing and sharing something with me, and I can be like a facilitator for sharing, then I've won. And that's how I try to keep my brain focused on like not numbers, and like what the, irreplaceable value of sharing and the joy of something that matters to people.
Yeah. Well, and I think even in that too, by sticking to your guns on why you're creating what you're creating and how you're choosing the content that you're creating, not as a numbers game, it probably directly reflects in surges of increased followers and subscribers and stuff like that, because that's what people are here for. Is they're here for your vulnerability, for your passion, for all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on two things that you said earlier, which is, with creating bingeable content, that's the gold mine of today's marketing, of today's
Yeah. Yeah.
everything. Everybody wants to be a content creator. Everybody wants like a successful YouTube channel. And I love how you saw the success of this one video, and you thought, cool, I know 10 more songs off the top of my head. But it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like, okay, I'm going to schedule this out in a content planner and a content calendar, and then we're going to do this, and this is why. It's like, no, you just talk about the stuff that you know about and that you love, and let that passion have those listeners and viewers lean in to what you're talking about.
I've never made a content schedule. In
No.
fact, I hate schedules, and I hate scheduling streams, because for me, like, it's funny because I always get this like boyish excitement when I have to do like a live. And so like tonight, for instance, I'm streaming Ace Combat 7, which is, wow, what a great game. And I've played it before, but I didn't remember a lot of it. And I've covered a lot of the music on the channel. So now to like experience it, and others are excited to experience it with me because they know it. The Ace Combat fans are diehard and they love their music, and they feel underrepresented. And I'm over here like, let's play the game. So I'm streaming at 4. And I hate that I'm streaming at 4 because they like a schedule, but I'm over here like, I want to stream this shit at 1 because I want to play. You know what I mean? Like, I want to get my hands on it. So it's this weird, like, I'll wake up at 5:30 sometimes, and I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to start my day. Like, what do I have to do? Not every day. Some days I wake up and I'm like, oh, but like
Monday.
but in general, like there's a pleasure for me in just like creating. And if it wasn't for like the fact that YouTube after 3 notifications stops like sending notifications out to your like subscribers, dude, I would just release video after video, because for me it's a pleasure. It's
Mm.
not like, and I know that you don't want to like, but you have to also think of like, okay, well, I don't want to overload my subscribers with content, because then they're going to be like, I'll never catch up, so I'm not going to watch. So it's just like trade off of like dancing the dance of like how much content is too much content, and also like how much content is I'm pivoting slightly from what you said, but how much content is original and how much content is just being a pundit. And something that I've
Mm.
really aspired to do as I've shifted into like phase two Marcomeatball
Level
is
up.
the idea, yeah, is the idea of creating original content. So like I just finished Resident Evil 4. And so I just what I've done now with my Twitch channel that I started is I'm keeping gameplay and music separate, is playing through the game, experiencing the game with people, and then writing a video review based on my experience, based on how
Mm.
I felt while listening to the music, while experiencing that content. And that is content that I'm very proud of. And so even if it doesn't necessarily pop off or whatever, it feels really good because it's not just me listening to something and being like, I feel this, and then this is the why this feels like this. And I'm basically basking in the glory of somebody else while also like offering my own insights. No, this is like my content that I'm sharing from my creative desire to write and to explore my emotions and why something makes me feel the way I feel. And then so that's something I'm really proud of is creating um original content. So anyway, the original point was I don't
It
remember.
doesn't matter what the original point is. I love where we ended up.
Yeah.
And so going back to what you said about learning how to dance the dance,
Mm,
how did you approach that? Because I think from the outside looking in, it looks like a simple process, right?
yeah.
Making a podcast, making a video post on Instagram, and then turning to, almost a 200K YouTube channel. It looks way easier than it actually is. There's a lot of work that goes into all of it.
Yeah.
How did you learn how to do that? And when, let's just start there. How did you learn
Sure.
how to dance the dance?
I was lucky because when TikTok popped off in March of 2020, I was a consumer of it, and I was always like, okay, well, how do I make things? And then I saw some other creators and voice actors that ended up becoming pioneers of the channel with their own whatever impressions, original content, and I was always like, man, how do I do this? And so I've always enjoyed creating videos and being in the spotlight. Maybe it's because my Leo moon is very
All right, and that's the show, everybody. All right, thanks so much for joining us,
See ya.
Marco. Tara, our producer, is gonna love that reference. She is an astrology aficionado. So,
Oh, really? Well, Tara, you know how Leo moons are. We love to be the center of attention.
classic Leo
Actually,
moon.
classic Leo moon. I really got into astrology because I always wanted to know more about myself. Like that's
Yeah.
something that I've always wanted to have a deeper understanding of why I do the things I do. And so I got really into astrology like 10 years ago. And like my birth chart and yeah, it's really interesting.
I did
Um
that same thing. I was like, I think because I've always been such a people pleaser and just wanted to like fit in, wanted people to like me,
mm,
and like
mm, mm, mm.
I just would change everything about myself at the drop of a hat. And so then I started looking at that when people start talking about it at musical theater school, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Some of this resonates with me.
Yeah. Some of it's probably bullshit, but
Yeah. But
it,
that's like with most things. Some of it's
yeah,
bullshit, but if it resonates and works, then great. As
then
long as you're
go
not
for it.
hurting anybody.
Exactly. Um, but so I was always like trying to figure out how I could leverage like my own creative pursuits. And during the pandemic, I created which I deleted all, which was really stupid. But when the channels took off, I got kind of nervous that I didn't want people to like know too much about me. Like I wanted people to know, but like things that I wanted them to know
Mm.
versus like, you know, but I made a mistake and I deleted my previous YouTube channel that had a lot of singing clips in the unlisted videos and all of my Zero Marco videos, which I'm sure you saw.
Those are awesome.
And Zero Marco was this like thing that I created that was basically a mixture of my grandfather and my dad, mostly my grandfather. It was like this over the top Italian man who felt that he was capable of cooking anything, but he actually was a terrible cook. And it was just like improv. And I was just like sort of letting my brain spin, looking at the camera and thinking about like what I wanted to do. Part of it was because in opera, I was forced to be a good lapdog that only took direction. And as I became a voice actor, and I still feel this way, I feel like I take direction like a beast. But if I'm
Mm-hmm.
alone in the audition room, I have a very hard time creating a scenario and like doing the doings. And so Zio Marco was like my way of like trying to uncover what my child playfulness that I sort of had lost after a decade of being sort of pushed down and suppressed. And so I had already learned how to do your basic video edits, and like I'd already learned how to like fiddle with Adobe and how to like navigate, and I've always been sort of tech savvy. So like I never felt like I could learn anything. And of course everything's Googleable now. So it's like you can learn anything if you just decide to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first got started with the YouTube channel, the first 3 videos were literally, so I had my iPhone set up. I had an iWatch. I knew that I could, at first, like I didn't even know if I was in focus because, the camera lens, the better lens was facing towards me. And so I didn't even see I couldn't see what I looked like. So I had to like position this thing, and I'm in this like, like PVC pipe booth, which I just had to make for my new booth. I like built a booth within the closet, so it's like a booth within a booth, so I can put a hood over it because it's a little bit too resonant and this whole thing. But nothing like a PVC fort to make you feel like you're making big bucks. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
look at me, I'm a voice actor.
Oh, this is just a disclaimer for people who are listening. You can make big bucks in a voiceover booth made out of
1,000,000% made out of PVC pipe. Yeah,
it's a legitimate.
I've done it.
Yeah,
I did well. But so like, yeah, it was sort of just like, okay. And then I was just like, literally like the first videos, there was not a moment that I wasn't in there. And I was just like, I remember Elden Beast, especially because I was really curious to hear it. And it was funny because when I filmed Elden Beast, which was one of the videos that really took off for me, for the Elden Ring stuff, it was 9:30 at night. I filmed it. I was literally, part of the reaction was like this. And I was really like, and people were like, "Whoa, he's really like." I was asleep. I fell asleep. And
he's so in it. He is like in the Matrix right now.
I'm actually like, wow, the strings. And which the strings are amazing in that piece, but like it was such a peaceful moment. And then I edited it. Like this is up until midnight, and I would stay up until 1, 2 o'clock because also Luna was a baby, so she was getting up at 3 a.m. anyway. She still does this fucking.
Luna's a sweetheart. We'll see if we can get. Is she asleep right now?
I don't know where she is. I don't know where she is. She must be in the room with Miss Meatball. Miss Meatball's visiting. That's also her official name is Miss Meatball.
I'm sure she loves that.
She does. We just did a video together, and like 50,000 people now refer to her as Miss Meatball.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, her reacting to video game music for the first time. It's really funny.
That's amazing.
I was thankful that anyway. So yeah, so like there was no plan. It was just to like just do it, and I was thankful that I had amassed like 17,000 followers on TikTok, and I had gone a few things that had gone viral. So I sort of understood like, okay, you make content that relates to people, and like there is a bit of marketing understanding, which I think because of everything I did with voiceover and social media and like trying to be a presence. And I'll never forget when I was like completely full-time voiceover, someone was like, "You don't make 6 figures?" And I was like, "Fuck no, I make low 5 figures." And they were like, "What?" And it's all about perception.
Yeah.
And so like I learned a lot coming up as a business owner in voiceover. And so it all just sort of it was just an amalgamation of everything I knew, and basically just like a skeleton of whatever. It was like, okay, let me just quickly edit this. Oh man, I'm taking so many pauses and breaks in these videos. And if you go back to my first videos, someone even commented like, wow, these videos are I can't watch them because it's so different now. And that's a year later, you know what I mean? So anyway, that's what I was doing.
So I mean, and within that year, and touching on that point of like the change in quality in terms of just the editing, the content is still quality. What was that point where you said, okay, I need help. I need to outsource. I need to hire somebody to help me streamline things. Like, what was that process like for you, and how did you find your people?
The volume was huge, and there was so many things that I wanted to do, and I was filming, editing, and just taking so much of my own time to do all that. And I remember talking with Maria Pendolino, who is a mentor for me in the voiceover industry.
We love Maria very much.
We love Maria. And she was like, you need to outsource. You should be focusing on one thing, and that's making the content.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually hate the term content creator because it's such like sort of
I know, but that's what it is. It is content,
it is what it is.
and it is videos. It's just the best way to say all of these things in one.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay. And then I reached out on LinkedIn because I had originally I had marketed to somebody, and turns out he was a video editor, not like a person who would hire a voice actor. And I was like, hey, do you want to edit these videos? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I had an email. So I used to do my own thumbnails, and they were very bare bones, like mostly trash. It was me going like, and then like the title of the game, and like I have Canva. I love Canva, but
Canva's
pretty
amazing.
limited.
Yeah,
pretty limited. And Raul emailed me. He's a young Brazilian guy, and he like explained to me, and I had other people like reach out and be like, your thumbnails. And I was like, okay, but what did you like about them? They're like, they're great, but they need to be fixed. And I'm like, what about it specifically? And they never were able to come back with a proper answer. Whereas Raul was like, he sent me an email, and it was like, I think I can do this. And it was like a 3-point thing. And he was like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh my God, this guy actually watches my content. And so, man, Raul's changed my life, and his thumbnails are such works of art. And so that was when I sort of was like, okay, Raul was the first person that came on board. Then it was Nathan. And then of course I've hired your brother now to help me with titles, just because my brain can't. It's not that I can't come up with titles, but like I can. But the time it takes to formulate something that feels coherent is so hard. Whereas like I just give Kevin stuff and he just does it, and if I don't like it, we adjust it, and that's.
Kevin's a freak with words too, so that's I mean, it's like that is his gift that has been given to him by God, the universe. Like he is a wordsmith. It's insane.
He's very good. And so, it's difficult because I don't see all of the bottom line that I end up making, and I am making, a fairly comfortable income, but more than half of it, I would say, goes to those people that help me. But I really can't at this point. I can't do it without them. Like,
no, I mean, you're scaling so quickly. It's like nobody on YouTube does this.
No,
Mr. Beast did it. That's maybe. I mean, the rate at which you're growing. Right. And so, I mean, you are tracking right now to hit, what is it? a million subscribers in probably the next 2 years or year.
Yeah. Give or take 2 years. Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. That kind of growth is wild. And I mentioned this on, I think it was on the episode with Emily Rizkala and Mark Zides, but 182,000 people is massive. It's a huge audience. It may feel small to some people who are looking at like you versus Mr. Beast, who's got 141 million or however many he has. But 182,000 people, that's like several stadiums full of people that are consuming your content. And it's, I mean, what is that? How do you manage that community? Because you also run, it's not just like that you make these videos, but you also are on Twitch. You're also on Discord. You're also having people edit them down to shorts and all this stuff too. Like how do you engage, and how much of your day is spent either in front of the camera or behind the screen communicating with your community?
Camera's about, if I'm filming, I usually just put my head down, and I will try to bust out like 5 to 10 videos a day. Wow. It doesn't always work that way. But see, you say wow, but it's like so easy. It's
now that you've got the system down, it's
not even, but just the actual act of just doing it is so easy. Like people are like, 5 videos, take a break.
Did it always feel easy for you to do that?
Yeah. It's
awesome.
The easiest job in the world. Like I literally I go down the list. I listen to the song. I break it down. Sometimes I don't because it's so good that I don't even have anything to say. I try to always offer. I always try to offer value. But so on camera, like for filming, I would say I try to do 3 to 5, but I've pulled back a little bit just so I don't. I've worked it all out with Patreon and stuff so that they know that like it's every couple months, and it's not like, because at first I was doing $10 you get 1 request, $20 you get 2 requests every single month. But holy God, I would have burnt out so quick because it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible because everyone wants something, and everyone wants something that they know. And I was like, I can't, I'm sorry. So I actually bumped up the prices because I was like, no one's going to pay for this. Like, I wouldn't pay for this, but people pay for it. And I'm so grateful because it enables me to like pay the editor and pay the people,
Yeah.
because otherwise I couldn't do it. And so that's what I do in terms of creating content. Then I would say, like, for a video essay, like yesterday's Resident Evil video, I'm really excited about because it touches on contemporary composition and John Cage and progressive piano and like the power of silence. And so I had to sit here and I had to think, okay, I just played this game for 12 hours. What do I want to talk about? And as I was playing it, I was like, okay, I know exactly what I want to talk about here. Okay. And that took me about 2 hours to write. So if it's a writing day, which I, again, is totally random. I just wake up and I'm like, what do I want to do today? That will usually, it depends on if I have no distractions or I'm able to focus. That's usually about 2 hours. And I won't film that day. I'll just focus on writing. And then streaming varies, but right now, because I was pushing towards affiliate and now I'm pushing towards partner, just so I have that in the bag, I'm streaming twice a day, and that's like from 1 to 3 a break, and then 4 to 6 basically. Um, and then as far as running the Discord, I have mods that have been with me. Some have been with me since day like 10. And I'm really grateful to them because they keep the channel functional. Because now I think like there's 3,000 people on the Discord, but actively there's always something going on. Like, I literally have the Discord open all day.
Mm-hmm.
And I am different than most creators because like I actually engage very frequently.
Yeah.
Some creators are like, oh, pay X amount of dollars and you'll get to chat with me for 20 minutes at a time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with creators respecting their own personal boundaries and like if that's what they want to do. But I feel like I have towed the line really well between building relationships with people, and trying to not ensure that there's no parasocial relationships. And I have run into some weird stuff, but in general, it's been nothing major, and it's been incredibly calm. And I think that people now view me. It's funny. Someone called me their opera dad the other day, and it's also interesting because the demographic is really it varies, but it's between 18 to 50, with the majority being 18 to 24, and then 24 to 34. So I feel like I try to really be as a friendly, kind person, and I do get some pushback, but in general, like the Discord especially is very kind and supportive, and it's a safe space, and we created that on purpose so that people felt that. So I'm also in there, and then somewhere in there I try to take time for myself, and yeah,
Miss Meatball.
and Miss Meatball, of course.
Yeah,
but she's really understanding, and she knows, and she loves it. Honestly, she loves that this is what I do.
Yeah. I mean, Marco, it's so cool. And we talk on the phone on our random phone calls when either of us is driving or in the middle of something. And those have been such a gift to me, at least when I see your name pop up on my phone on road trips, or if I'm even on like a 10-minute break in the middle of my day. It's always just nice to connect with you and talk with you about that kind of about this kind of stuff, but also the
Like
real life
stuff,
kind of stuff too, especially with so much happening for both of us in the past several years.
Yeah.
And so with that real life stuff, how have you navigated the ups and downs of being a public figure now, of creating content, of using your creativity, the ebbs and flows of being a voice actor, of when it's hot, when it's not, it's really not, and it can be really frustrating and scary. What have you used as resources to help you navigate those lower periods of time?
So when I quit opera, I was really determined to move away from a scarcity mindset. Um, I think one of the things that I love about what I'm doing now is that I don't have to rely on marketing to like sustain me. Marketing every day and like reaching out to random people and asking them if they were willing to hire a voice actor. While I believe it works exceptionally well for some folks, including me, it did work pretty well. And a lot of the clients that I do have are from those efforts. It was really soul draining, and I'm glad that I don't have to rely on that. And it's a double-edged sword, because sometimes I forget. Like yesterday, I forgot I had an audition to submit because I'm here, and then if I wanted to get an audition done, especially in this new setup in my new apartment, I have to go into the closet to
Yeah.
do it. And so it's like I can't, oh, I got an email, let me just quickly pop this off, I'm sitting here. No, I have to like physically go into a different space to do that now. So my brain, I have to shift. But so for me, it's really when things are, it's hard. It's always hard, and it's still hard. Like if a video performs iffy, I'm always like, man, that took effort to write, and it took effort to create, and it's hard because there are because I am offered the opportunity to not ever focus on just one thing, which a lot of people, this is a funny subject because it is a niche. So it is focused in on one thing, but I'm lucky because video games are a niche that have a million different sub niches. So I don't ever have to feel stuck within what video game music, because there's so much to cover. But a lot of other content creators that only focus on one thing, they have to be a little bit more creative than I do. And so a lot of my viewership does come from certain specific games, which is fine, but not every viewer watches every video.
Right.
And so that can be really demoralizing, because it's like, man, I put in the same effort for every single video. And even if when I know that a song isn't going to do well, I still always give 110%. But then when it doesn't do well, you're like, damn. So how do I navigate that? I mean, medication, baby. No, just
hard drugs. No,
just Lexapro. No, I look at it like, ebbs and flows are natural, and it's part of what happens. And it's like controlling the ego. Like for voiceover, I always want more opportunities.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, like I recognize, it's funny because when I made the announcement that the channel really took off, someone was like, "Oh, it's a real shame to see you not doing voiceover as much." And I was like, I never said I stopped doing voiceover.
Yeah.
But okay. And so it's like fighting that perception, and it's that perception game where when you start to your messaging changes because you're trying to promote or build something.
Yeah.
It's really hard because people perceive you one way, and then when you shift gears on them, they're like, wait, what? And so, one of the frustrations I deal with frequently is like, oh, well, I want more auditions, or I want to, now that I'm covering more video games, this is a perfect opportunity for folks to like leverage that with the channel. And it's like, it would be obvious to me to have a talent agent be like, oh, well, he's got the channel, I could just use that as leverage for any audition he gets that are related to video games. So trying to like, I guess just like understand the ego, and trying to just remind myself that like life is long, and it's been something I've been thinking about, especially recently. I've been very sad because at 35 is not old for content creation. There's no such thing as old for content creation in terms of age. But I do wonder, where will I be in 10 years? At 45, will I still be doing the exact same thing? Can I do the exact same thing? Do I want to be a part of a music staff for a video game company? Will that even be available to me? Will all this stuff that I've done be meaningful in 10 years? And I think yes, but it's unrelated to your question, but it does make me sad.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a really interesting point that I don't know if I've thought about recently, at least, is that long game of, okay, cool. I love what I'm doing, and I know that voiceover will be sustainable, and regardless of thoughts on AI and stuff, I believe that the voice actors who are committing to this long term, whether you're in a major market or you're in a PVC fort in Saskatchewan, that work is always going to be there. But it's the other creative work. Like, what is that going to look like? Because it's not the same generation as our parents or the one generation before us that you can plan. Especially in the creative world, I think. And in other industries, obviously, you can a little bit more, but that's an interesting
there's no
point.
precedent for it. There's no precedent for what millennials are going to be doing in 10 years. And so there's like, I mean, yeah, there's like, like I'm sure there are folks that have whatever age have adapted to content creation and in the arts. And certainly it's a funny thing to say as a person who used to be an opera singer, like how viable is opera? I mean, opera didn't exist for 2 years during the pandemic. So it's like, you know, you could like most people that were opera singing, a lot of people quit because it's like, well, shit, I don't know how I'm going to sustain. I don't know how to do this long term. And now it's literally doesn't exist due to the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's like, all performing artists were like, well, what the hell do I do with my life? And so now that stuff is sort of in the regular, again, it's like, oh, okay, I can do this until I'm 70. So it's part of it's like, is it really that different from like being a voice actor or like full time or being an opera singer full time? Not really. As long as the viewership's there and you're making income, and ultimately, unfortunately, money matters. So like you need money to live. But yeah, but like the arts are a funny thing. And like I said, there's no precedent. So we don't like, my mom is always like, do you want like a more stable job? And I'm like, Mom, I was an opera singer. How is that more stable than what I'm doing now? In fact, I make more money now, like every month. I actually make a paycheck every month. Whereas like in opera, I might go a month and not make a paycheck, and then I make a big paycheck.
Yeah.
But what about the in-between?
Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing with voiceover. It's like you might book a gig that pays you 10 grand, but it's hard because like you got to be careful, because I've spent a lot of money to like build this thing up, and you're always looking to improve the setup or the booth or the the system or the workflow or the program, and so all that stuff is just it's I just need to get over it. It'll be fine. But you wonder, and I have a lot of people in my circle right now that I know that in 10 years may not be there. And life is short and life is long. It's very confusing.
Yeah, I'll be the first one out of that circle. Don't worry. I'll let you know. I'm bouncing. After this interview, done. No,
it's done. That's fair. That's fair. Impermanence, baby.
We're here for the life lessons for each other. Well, Marco, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know you got a busy schedule, and I feel like I just want to say thank you for the relationship that you and I have built together, because through the pandemic, moving out of New York and just being able to communicate, this is another example of, fortunately, now we've been able to hang out in person a couple times, which has been such a gift.
Yeah.
So nice. But just a wonderful example of what just like starting chatting with people can turn into, and with people who are in the same industry, different parts of the world. Rob Morera and I were talking about this at VO Atlanta, where I don't remember how he and I started talking, and I don't remember the first conversation that you and I had, but then it like, I just like some of my earliest memories are like, okay, like messaging on Facebook or whatever that is.
Yeah.
But then the long road trips where I was driving to Chicago from Austin and we'd talk for like an hour and a half. You'd be like, all right, I'm running in to pick up Chinese food. I'll be right back out. It's always when you're picking up Chinese food.
I know.
But before I cut you loose, I have a couple of quick fire questions for you.
Sure.
Whatever is just top of mind first. What is a nickname that you had as a kid?
Marcolino. My dad used to call me that.
Marcolino. Who inspires you right now?
Myself.
Love it. What's a piece of content that you can't get enough of right now? It can be a YouTuber, it can be a book, it can be music, it can be a TV show.
Oh God. Top Notch Idiots. It's really bad. It's like they go into like dangerous places and ask people like it's terrible. It's trash.
Okay.
I love it.
I need to look that up. Okay.
Yeah,
and last question, heavy hitter. You can only have pizza one last time. There are no dietary or allergic reactions. It's just pure bliss. Where from and what's on it?
Anywhere in Italy. It's a wood fire pizza, really thin with mushrooms, and it's you fold it and it's delicious.
Yum. Awesome. Marcomeatball, Mr. Meatball himself. Thank you again. I love you.
Of course, Tim.
And appreciate you. And
of course, excited to
have you back on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much. This was really fun. I'm glad we got to like figure it out. Also, my eyes look insanely puffy, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm glad you said it and I didn't have to. All right, I love you, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy. Love you too. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Second Cup with my good friend Marco Cammarota. If you would like to keep track of everything that Marco has going on, which I highly recommend that you do because his content is chef's kiss, aces, babes. You can follow him on YouTube and subscribe at Marcomeatball and follow him on Twitter at MarcoDMeatball. As always, a huge shout out goes to the Second Cup family. We have Julia Shepard-Morgan and Tara Seuss on the production team, and we also have Sarang Sharma and Aubrey Bursey from Arai Productions in New York City handling all of our edits and social media things. So please give them a follow, seek them out on social media, and tell them how awesome they are because they deserve it. Please continue to like, subscribe, share, comment on the posts, and leave us a review if you have the time to do that in Spotify and or Apple Podcasts and on our YouTube page. If you search at Tim Heller and Second Cup Podcast, you'll find it right away. All of that really helps us along. Oh, and there's my dog in the background. Everybody say hi, Stu. Stu thinks that everybody should probably subscribe to all the different platforms that Second Cup is on, just so you can stay informed on all the exciting things we have coming down the way for all of you. Stay tuned for the next episode of Second Cup, where we have another amazing conversation with somebody really cool. Bye!